Yo, what's up guys? Yeah, pokeaim here. Today we're going to have a competitive look at Wyrdeer, or Wyrdeer, however you want to say it, in Pokemon Legends Arceus. And this video is going to be talking about it from a competitive aspect, but I'll be looking more so towards Gen 9 or whatever game besides Pokemon Legends Arceus that Wyrdeer will be allowed inside. Basically, because Pokemon Legends Arceus does not have competitive, and it's not the traditional way you can play Pokemon, I'm still looking further based on stats, move sets, Stantler as well, because obviously there's Stantler, which evolves into this. I have a whole problem with that, which I'll tell you in a second. And as well as just general thoughts. So I do want to know your thoughts as well. Leave them down below. If you do enjoy this type of video, make sure you leave a like. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe. I'm on my way to 300K. That is my end of the year goal. Hoping to hit it, obviously, by the end of 2022. And I'm enjoying Pokemon Legends Arceus. So this is actually one of my favorite mons from the new game. This and Ursaluna. And I think it has a lot of potential, which is why I said Wyrdeer has potential. Because while it is normal and psychic, its overall abilities and sets and just its overall stats actually make it look pretty cool. So this is the big thing about this Pokemon, right? It is normal psychic, which means it's immune to Ghost. That is incredible in, a Gen 8 plus metagame where Ghost is so good since Steel no longer resists, and Ghost is just really spammable. You have Gengar being suspect tested, potentially banned in Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. You have Dragapult in Pokemon Sword and Shield. You have Spectre and Calyrex Shadow Rider, right? So Ghost is such a great typing. So to have an immunity to Ghost, I think is really good. Now, being part psychic is interesting because this is kind of like, okay, what are normal types weak to? They're weak to fighting types, so they gave it a stab that can deal with fighting types, which I think is pretty cool. However, overall, it still makes you scared of dark types, right? So you kind of traded that you're neutral to fighters, but you are weak to dark, which is pretty big in, a metagame where Pokemon like Bisharp, Weavile, Tyranitar are all very, very strong dark types, and Knockoff is a very common move. So I still think that nonetheless this Pokemon has potential. Now, as we get into this Pokemon, the big thing that are really they're just standing out to me, Intimidate, which is awesome, right? Intimidate means -1 attack to the opponent, which is great for doubles and singles. And the other one is Sap Sipper, and Sap Sipper means it has a grass type immunity and it gets +1 attack. I actually really, really like this because with Sap Sipper, it can switch in on things like Leech Seed from Ferrothorn, Power Whip from Ferrothorn, right? Giga Drain from Tangrowth, Spore from Breloom, and get +1 attack, and also obviously be immune to those moves and threaten them back to potentially on these set. One of the biggest things that actually makes me see the potential in this Pokemon is its signature move, Psy Shield Bash. So Psy Shield Bash is, it sucks that it's only 70, but it's pretty cool because there's no way it's going to be 70 as well. It's going to be 80 or something in there for a thing. But it's pretty cool because it's a physical psychic type attack that's just slightly weaker than Zen Headbutt, but it also raises the Pokemon's defenses, and that's really nice for a Pokemon that has 72, 75. So it actually makes it, especially with 103 base HP. Now, these are on Showdown, but there's no way to actually play with them unless you do custom, which I'll talk about in a bit, because I did make a video that they're not going to make a metagame, but that may have changed. So we'll talk a little bit about that, hopefully later this week. But with that, you go from a Pokemon with bulk to actually really nice bulk, right? If it's a +1 raise, it's 180 times 1.5. So this Pokemon ends up, at neutral, this Pokemon ends up having defensive of 270, right? So you couple that with base 103 HP, it's really nice. I think 65 base speed is actually a pretty bad speed tier, personally. However, it is faster than defensive Rotom and defensive Lantern, so from a competitive standpoint, I think that's pretty cool too. And then if we look at the rest of its move pool, there's nothing here. But Psy Shield's Bash is the greatest one in my opinion. Again, having that effect. Let me see if there's a chance here that tells me what is the chance to have. Standard, Agile, Strong, 85. Base crit rate. I'm trying to see if we can have, every single time I've used it, I've always gotten a defense raise in the game. So I'm honestly not sure of the chance of the effect, but this may also raise a user's defensive stats. I literally always get, I literally always get the stat raise in the game, so I'm not entirely sure when we're playing. But I think that's an amazing move. I think it gives it a lot of defensive utility as well. And I think also on the special side, Calm Mind is pretty cool too. So Calm Mind with moves like Energy Ball, Psychic obviously being stabbed there, I think will be pretty cool in itself. If we actually look at Stantler and Stantler's movesets, it should have very similar movesets to Stantler when it eventually comes back. which means that it will have access to Earthquake, which it currently doesn't have access to because there's no Earthquake in the game, but it does have high horsepower, so it has its like version of Earthquake. So it will have access to Earthquake, so I think will be very key for Pokemon like Heatran as well as Tyranitar. So like a set would be like Psy, Shield, Bash, which for some reason I had a space here. So a set would be like Psy, Shield, like a physical set, Psy, Shield, Bash, Earthquake, and then if Return and Frustration are back, you would use Return or Frustration. If Return and Frustration are not back, you'd use Double Edge, obviously, for the added power. Excuse me, not that. You use Double Edge for the added power. And then your last move would be kind of a toss-up, right? I kind of like the idea of Sucker Punch on this Pokemon, especially if it still gets it from Stantler, simply because it allows it to deal with those Ghost types and those fast Psychic types that otherwise it's kind of like, designed to deal with, right? It's a Pokemon that can switch in on Ghost type attacks, but you still want to be able to deal with Gengar, because Gengar can still threaten you with a Shadow Ball, a Sludge Bomb. Like Spec Sludge Bomb will still 2-hit KO you. So you want to be able to deal with it. So I do think like Sucker Punch, Earthquake, Double Edge, Psy Shield, Bash on like a Life Orb or Banded set will be, we'll just put Psychic as the filler, right? We'll put Psychic, but we all know what it is. So I think that would be a pretty cool one, at least on that side. And then from the special side, since this gets Calm Mind and Stantler already gets Calm Mind as well, obviously, we could see like some sort of Calm Mind, Psychic. Now, in this game, they made Hyper Beam in Pokemon Legends Arceus. They made Hyper Beam not be a recharge turn anymore. I would absolutely love that if Pokemon did that. That's kind of similar to how it was in Gen 1, right? If you picked up a KO with Hyper Beam in Gen 1, you didn't have to wait the recharge turn. It literally says the target is attacked with a powerful beam. They did weak, well, it's 120, but yeah. But I would love like a nerf to Hyper Beam, but it to do that, because that'd be greater than using something like Hyper Voice or anything like that. But otherwise, you'd see something like Hyper Voice, or you'd see like Thunderbolt to be able to deal with Skarmory and do neutral to steel types. That would be something interesting. So, and I think that Calm Mind sets will very much benefit from obviously Intimidate more so than Sap Sipper, as they give them multiple opportunities to get up Calm Minds. Again, on physical sets too, something else you could see is Mega Horn as well, which would be nice for hitting the Lottie twins as well as Tyranitar all in one for super effective damage. And yeah, but overall, I'm liking its base. I'm liking its base 105 attack and special attack. I do think that Stantler needed a buff, and I think it's really interesting that with age, right? Because honestly, Wyrdeer kind of just looks like old Stantler. It doesn't look like an evolution. It just looks like Stantler got old, right? With age comes wisdom, but maybe you don't move as fast. So I like that. That's the reason why it's 65 base speed. Even though technically this would be the evolution that existed but doesn't exist now because of whatever they want to do with history. But yeah, so in terms of what this does for Stantler, this means that Violite Stantler is a thing, right? This means that Violite Stantler will be a thing, and it would turn its really poor, really poor defenses, right? 73 base HP, really low, 62 base defense, 65 base defense. You go from 160 at neutral to 240, so it's actually decent. So defensive Stantler with Intimidates can actually be a thing. Support Stantler with Intimidates can be a thing. It has access to Curse here, which I'm assuming that's something that you transfer from like Gen 2 or something if you want to get that on Stantler. I don't know how easy that is to get Stantler right now. But like a Curse set with Intimidate and a Violite sounds pretty crazy in lower tiers. Also, if you don't want to use everything else, Body Slam is also an option for a physical move. You don't want to use Double Edge. But like on this mon, Curse, Body Slam, Earthquake, Rest. So it's almost like Snorlax in a sense, or you can use Sleep Talk type of thing. Would definitely be something like that. On top of that, it also has, Thunder Wave, so Thunder Wave is always an option. And while Toxic isn't really distributed, it's still something that Stantler can have on Pokemon Home, so I'm assuming in the future you'll still be able to have that. And I think another cool thing about this Pokemon is it has access to Trick Room, so it can even be sort of similar to Porygon too, just a little bit worse, but at the same time, like if you look at the max defense, right? So let's say we go Impish or whatever, and let's just run a damage calc, because this is the whole point of this is the competitive potential about this Pokemon and what it also does for Stantler. So let's look at Stantler real quick. PU all attacker, which is something I see. Intimidate, this. Impish, let's give it +1 defense to mimic the Violite, and let's give it the ability Intimidate as well. And for some people that don't know what website I'm on, because sometimes people don't know, this is PokemonShowdown.com. This is where I upload a lot of stuff. I also do Wi-Fi battles, things like that too, but this is where it's a free online site where you can play Pokemon. So I know I sometimes get that question. So I just want to think of one of the, I always use Lanners as an example just because it is one of the more common Pokemon. This is Earthquake from Lanners to defensive Stantler without Intimidate. And obviously you put Intimidate on, and that is a 4.2% chance to a KO. So it actually becomes a decently bulky Pokemon because of Intimidate. And the difference between this and like Porygon 2 would be obviously Recover and also Trace and and a lot of things, right? But the initial Intimidate, instead of having to be like Porygon and tracing Intimidate, I think is a pretty cool thing. So I think it opens up a lot for Stantler in that regard. Also, you have to remember that Stantler, Calm Mind Stantler sets can be something cool too. And let's see if Wyrdeer gets one other move that I'm looking for, because we see Hypnosis. Maybe with Blunder Policy, Hypnosis could be pretty cool for setup. I'm just trying to see if it learns Bulk Up in any way, shape, or form. I do not see Bulk Up in any way, shape, or form. So that's not something we can really add to that Pokemon. But yeah, Curse Stantler sets seem pretty cool. And I think it opens up its viability as a really lower tier Pokemon, right? As a lower tier Trick Room Mon, as a lower tier defensive Pokemon. And when I compare this Pokemon, you know what I compare it to? I compare it to Defensive Gramble. Defensive Gramble is not the best Pokemon, right? But physical dragon types, you know, shake in their boots when they see that Pokemon, because you're pure fairy, you wall the outrage, you have Intimidate as well, and like its stats are very similar. Gramble's max defense is 273, right? So it's base 75. So it is not the, yep, it's 273. Thank you, memory. It is not the bulkiest Pokemon, right? But its stats are incredibly similar to Stantler. And not to mention that we have the Eviolite boosting it as well. Of course, the pros and cons are that Gramble can run leftovers, whereas Stantler would have to run Eviolite if it wants to boost. But I do think this opens up a lot of potential for that. And I also think like offensive Stantler sets have a lot more potential too, just with Eviolite as well. Kind of similar to how Sneasel. And I know some people say Eviolite or Eviolite. I say Eviolite. If you say Eviolite, that's fine too. I know some people run like Sneasel with Choice Band and also Heavy Duty Boots or Eviolite, depending. Like it can use the exact same items as basically Weavile, and it's just slower. But to be able to do this and to be able to just be an offensive presence and a threat with that, I think is such a cool thing to open up for this Pokemon. And I'm really glad like they're giving us evolutions to these mons, because it makes those mons just that much better. But yeah, I see a lot of potential in this Pokemon, especially if Psy-Shield Bash is like, it says a chance there, but if it's like 100% or like if it's more than 50% to get it, like if it's similar to, because we have the effect percentage right there. We do not have an effect percentage here, right? So this may also raise the user's defensive stats. Again, I've used the move more than 60 times in the game, and I've always gotten defense raises. Because in order to evolve Stantler into Wyrdeer, you have to use Psy-Shield Bash 20 times in Agile form, right? So I've obviously used the move, and then obviously since then, I've been able to use the move as well. It's a great move. It's a fantastic move. So I do think that it opens up a lot of potential for this Mon, as Stantler has a physical wall or a special wall depending on the tier, and just more offensive threats. Wyrdeer, potentially like a Bandit or Life Orb type of threat like this too. A Trick Room Sweeper as well, if it also still has access to Trick Room. Like I think of this like offensive Bronzong, right? Offensive Bronzong, or offensive or OTR Bronzong, or offensive Trick Room Bronzong used to run like Macho Brace or whatever with Trick Room. This was Gen 4. Gyro Ball, Earthquake, and Explosion, because Explosion was broken. It was 250. It's 250 base power, but it used to have the opponent's defense, so it was effectively 500 base power. So it set up Trick Room and it would win for itself, right? And I kind of think that Wyrdeer is almost similar to that, right? It can set up Trick Room for itself, assuming it keeps the exact same thing as Stantler, and it can just Psychic, Earthquake, Double Edge, or Psy-Shield Bash. Excuse me. This is throwing me off, but Psy-Shield Bash, Earthquake, Double Edge. Or you can use it on your Trick Room teams as well. It's relatively slow, but it still has the speed here to function faster than really defensive Pokemon. And even though like it being normal and Psychic, it's still not walled by particular steel types like Ferrothorn, because it has Sap Sipper, so it doesn't really have to care too much. Also, it has the Intimidate for Gyro Balls, and it's slow as well, so Gyro Ball won't be doing too much anyway. And also Skarmory and Celesteela, Pokemon like that, you can Thunderbolt. So there is a lot of potential, I think, with this mod. I think it's really cool. It's really going to be dependent on just how strong Psy-Shield Bash is into the game. It's 70 base power here, so I'm assuming it's going to be 80 or 85. Because Extra Sensory is 70 base power, so again, I'm assuming it's going to be 80, 85, sometimes similar to the game itself. And if it is 80 or 85, I'd hell use it over Zen Headbutt. I hate Zen Headbutt. I hate Zen Headbutt so much. Like if I'm going to use a 90% move that can miss, and Flinch I don't think matters as much on a slower Pokemon, right? Because there are very little opportunities, I guess under Trick Room, but there's very little opportunities where you'll be able to take advantage of that Flinch. But I would rather use the one that's raising my defenses as I'm using it, because imagine a Trick Room bulky set, because Trick Room Mons run max HP, right? So imagine a Trick Room bulky set with max HP, max attack, Trick Room, Sideshow Bash, Earthquake, and maybe Body Slam, Return, Frustration. Double Edge is obviously an option, but maybe you don't want to lower that. If you're running Leftovers and you're constantly boosting your defenses as you're going for that, it is going to be extremely difficult for your opponent to knock you out, right? So I definitely see this as something paired with Magnezone. I definitely see this as something that can be a really cool offensive threat, and it has a lot of potential. I think it's going to have a niche in whatever tier it's in. I don't think it's going to be a high tier, best Pokemon, top 10 usage type of thing. No. Though in VGC, Intimidate, Immunity to Ghost, a few resistances because of Psychic as well, might be a different story, right? In VGC, it'd be a different story. But in singles, specifically, I don't think it'd be a top tier threat. But with Intimidate and that bulk overall, we'll see. But yeah, guys, let me know your thoughts down below. If you guys want to pick up Pokemon Legends Arceus, you can actually support me by using my Best Buy affiliate link down below as well. And yeah, if you live in the US, of course. And yeah, hope y'all enjoy it. Leave a like, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. I'll be talking about the other Hisuian Pokemon. I talked about Ursaluna the other day. If you guys want to see that, that was a very fun video. And yeah, that's all I have for y'all. See y'all next time. Peace.